Welcome back to Coffee Talk. Today's guest has spent more than 2 decades building systems, solving problems, and creating community for people navigating Business Central and Power Platform. She's the founder of Weekend Power Platform, the author of Extending Business Central with Power Platform, and right now she's doing something that a lot of us are still figuring out, building her first AI Copilot Agent out loud and in front of everyone. Please welcome Shawn Sissenwein.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on your show. I'm excited to, you're right, kind of be on the other side. I started my podcast this year, so I'm kind of learning along the way. So as I was prepping this morning, it's like, oh, okay, I'm the guest.
You're on the other side of it this time, right? We met a couple of months ago at Directions, I think. And we just sat down, we had lunch. It was such a great chat. And I'm looking forward to this episode of Coffee Talk. Let's jump into it. One of the things that resonated with me is a word I kept coming back to over and over again when I was reading your form. And that is, that's the word build. You are building systems, you're building communities, homes. We'll talk about that. Most importantly, you're building confidence. And I don't think that any of that happens by accident. Were you always someone who loved building things?
Yeah, I think so. So I wasn't that kid that was taking apart radios and those kinds of things, but I was a kid trying to make things better for people, smoothing things over, creating order, giving people confidence, which is kind of interesting in that I was so shy and quiet, but I was always doing that for other people. I spent like a lot of my childhood on the farm with my grandparents. I spent a lot of time with my grandma and helping. We would go to other relatives' place, and instead of going to the state fair, I was like, I'm going to go to the nursing home and visit my great grandma. And I would go around and, talk with everybody. So I feel like I was just always involved and trying to make things better for, people, whether they had disabilities or, were older or just trying to make a living. And that's kind of, what I did. And then later, I worked with people with disabilities, and in my 20s, actually created a business plan and went to the state of California and got certified to help people with. They lived on their own, and I did meal prep, helping them in the community, just building those life skills that you need when you're on your own and have disabilities and have either learning or physical or whatever that is. And then in my 30s, when I started into Navision, which we can talk about in a minute, but I think it was a real natural thing for me because it just came easy, even though I did not have a tech background, and it was tough for a while. I love Navision. I loved helping people. I spent 5 years implementing 2 versions of NAV. I did Microsoft CRM 1.0. And so I just got in and taught myself, really read the code and everything. So that's kind of my 20s and my 30s and growing up.
That's incredible. Why do you think that creating something from nothing lights you up so much?
I think it's partly the challenge. I do think that I get bored very easily. And so I think just starting that from scratch and really diving in, I think over time I realized I did a lot of observing. So I wasn't seeing how people did things and wanted to make it better. That really was kind of one of my superpowers of doing that. And then just starting, I wanted to be able to do it myself and implement it and show people there's a better way.
Yeah. You are leaving things better than you found them. Was there someone along the way that taught you that?
I do think it was growing up on the farm, and we had cattle and we grew wheat. And so we were always improving the land, always improving that. So you wanted it to be better in leaving it. So we didn't, there was no like, hey, I have trash in my car and I'm just going to throw it away because the animals could eat it, or, it was bad for the environment or whatever. So we were always, looking out at that from that perspective.
Yeah. I want to bring special attention to our coffee mugs. They're really cute today. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see this. Mine is a cute little fox and hers is a cow. I always take a picture before we hit record, just so I have one for my files. And when you held your coffee cup up, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so perfect. So let's talk about the Cow app. That was a story from your intake that just made me smile. Tell me about that.
Yeah, the Cow app, I think became just this perfect thing because I was going out helping my dad a couple of times a year, and he has this little red book. And if you know, you know, but that's where you put all your cattle in when you're calving and when they were born, and the sex and all that kind of stuff. So he would carry this little book with them. And we started doing ultrasounds and tracking all that stuff. And I thought, you know what if I just create an app? And in the meantime, I was introduced to Power Platform, and I love Power Apps. Even to this day, it's probably my favorite Power is the apps. And so I thought it was just real basic. I'm going to replicate the entries that he has in his little red book in an app on the phone because he carries his phone around all the time and he uses that. So I thought, what a great way to take his intake form and put it on the phone. So when he's out and about, he can use it. And then kind of an interesting thing that really one day he's like, you know what? I love this Cow app. When I'm out on my horse and I'm riding around on the field, I can just pull my phone out and look at something versus, trying to get the red book out. And half the time, there's other information that I have at the house that I don't have. So for me, envisioning him on the cow, not on the cow, but on the horse riding around, and he had his little phone out and he's looking up stuff, So that was really great for me to see.
What is it about problem solving for someone that is your family, someone that is, all the ins and outs of their needs? How is that different from solving a problem for a client?
I think because all of a sudden you're a child, so you're not an adult. And so when you're solving those kinds of things, it's like, it's still your parents, right? So I still felt like sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to get grounded or something. So it's just different. But it's also too, I think, knowing the business and knowing what kinds of things would be good and easy for him to use and making it easy. Because just like with our customers and anybody else, if you implement something and there's problems, there's challenges, you don't train them, they don't know how to use it, then it just nobody wants to, right? So I think having that insight of knowing exactly, what he would say about it and what he needed and you have that going for you. So
Yeah. Our family is very honest with us, aren't they? Whether we want it
Mhm.
or not, they're brutally
Yeah.
honest
Yeah.
every time. So your dad was your first Power Apps customer. Is that right?
Yeah. At 76, I built an app for a 76-year-old who does not computer. I did get him a computer during 2020, and he's like, oh, you mean my doorstop? So it's been on the floor ever since we got it, but the phone he uses all the time. He does Angus cows, and so he goes, I need you to install this Angus app on my tablet. Well, first of all, he had two because he thought one was broke. It just needed to be charged. So he got another one, and he uses an iPhone, but he had a Droid tablet. And I'm like, I don't know why we did that. So anyway, I installed it on both tablets. I installed it on his phone. And then I went away because I live in California and he's in Kansas. And then he calls me, he's like, I need help registering the calves and I need help with this and that. And that part, I think for him and we learned together because he already knows about raising cattle and what you need to do. I'm called the computer lady. So I know the technology piece, and we kind of came together and, spent, I don't know, 7, 8, 10 years, getting everything lined up and doing everything that we needed. But yeah, that was kind of an interesting, and that's how I got my job, if you will.
Yeah. So let's transition and talk about Weekend Power Platform. Where did that idea come from?
So the idea came from actually Belinda Allen. I
Yeah.
used to she has a Saturday morning, it's Power BI. And I would go to Saturday morning Power BI every Saturday. I did this for several years and it was an amazing group. I learned a ton. Well, I started working on Power Platform. And so I was missing the Power BI sessions because I was overlearning, doing Power Automate and apps and all things Power Platform. And she goes, I think you need a Saturday morning group. And I'm like, I do. You're right. And so at that moment in time, I decided that, you know what, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to create Weekend Power Platform.
Was there ever a time where your project stopped feeling like a project and started feeling more like community building?
Yeah, I think as, last year was kind of an interesting year, but it took a little bit to get off the ground. And we finally now have kind of our core group, if you will. I feel like so this last week, when somebody was having problems or challenging trying to get something to work, and they said, well, I phoned a friend or I phoned a couple of friends. And then the other person's like, that's what Weekend Power Platform is for. And I'm like, you're right. We come together and sometimes we have very specific activities that we're working on, but a lot of times it's like, what is everybody doing during the week? And then we share with each other and learn and just really kind of dive into this whole like AI, which right now I call it the messy phase. I think we're just in this messy AI phase that we can sit and, talk about, what we're doing and what our customers are doing, what are the people out in the community doing and sharing that information and learning from each other.
So you're diving into AI. I said in your introduction that you're doing something out loud and a very like public evolution. You're building an AI agent. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, I built a couple, and I wanted to talk about my first one, and I'll share this with you because I think it's important for everybody to know. Because even after, I've implemented software now for 30 years, almost 30 years, and this AI Copilot Studio is so exciting. You want to dive in, you want to build all this stuff, and you kind of get wrapped up in that. And I realized after I took my first project on, one, I didn't understand the requirements well, didn't have good SOPs. The department was actually going to a new system. We weren't even staying with that system, but I still just jumped in and wanted to build this huge, massive like agent. And it failed, as you can imagine, because of those things. And then I came back and I was like, okay, now the next one, first of all, we need to really understand the requirements. We really need to understand, what we're building and what we're automating. And there's still this human piece to it. The other thing I realized too, in talking with the team and other people, is that there's still a lot of people that are really scared of AI. They're scared it's going to take your job. They're scared all kinds of stuff. And it's people that you wouldn't think. It's people like me who've been implementing and doing change for several decades that are like, what does it look like now? And so I think there's that piece of it too. But yeah, I've been approaching that differently now that I kind of stumbled upon the first one. And I think everybody has to kind of, come back and look at like lessons learned. And those are the kinds of things that I want to share with everybody, the listeners, blogging. And, it's like, I think if all of us share that information, and, then we can maybe make it a little bit easier for somebody else. They don't have to necessarily go through the same struggles we went through.
You're doing something really special, and I do see that as a major community building activity, and you are learning alongside so many people, and you're doing it in real time. And I think it's important for other people to see those successes, failures, and you're like, oh, it didn't come together, but here are the reasons why. And there's a lot of active learning that happens in failures. I mean, Coffee Talk is all about that. One of the things that's so special about Dynamics is that we are in this together. We are learning together. We're learning alongside each other. What's it like building so authentically in public for you?
Well, it was terrifying at first, I'll tell you. I sat on it for a while and you start thinking about like, cause I wasn't really one that talked at, conferences and did all these things. Even though I've implemented Business Central for years now, I've trained hundreds of people. It's different. It's different when you get up and you're like exposed and you're afraid that, oh my God, I don't know what I'm talking about. What if they ask you a bunch of questions? What if I lose my words, and all that kind of stuff. So I think for a while I wanted to do it for a couple of years. And then I just finally was like, you know what? I was trying to make it perfect. Even with the podcast, I recorded and recorded and recorded and edited and edited. And I thought, you know what? It's just just do it and jump in. And I started speaking engagements thanks to Carrie Carosa and Kim Cogiton. As you know, Kim and I do a lot of things together, and writing a book is one. And you just lean on your friends and you lean on the community and you just get out there and do it. Like, no one's going to start yelling at you, throwing stuff at you. It's like you do it, and it gets a little bit easier. I still get nervous and think about, okay, what are people thinking? But or no one's going to follow me. No one's reading my blogs. No one's listening to my podcast. But it doesn't matter to me because I want to share this information. And even if you reach one person, it resonates with somebody, it's worth it for me to do all of this to help people.
Yeah. I mean, it's so shocking to me to find out that you didn't used to speak, that you are this shy, quiet person. I am also a shy, quiet person, which is shocking to a lot of people to find out. But this community specifically is so infectious, and it makes you want to jump in and try new things alongside other people. You've mentioned you've written a book, you've built a business, you're actively building community. Again, you said speaking in front of other people has never really come easy for you. I'd love to hear more about that gap. When did you first realize that you were doing something that really scared you?
I think the first time I submitted a session at Directions by myself, and it's the first time, and then I realized I have to get up and speak by myself. I don't have like this little security blanket, someone next to me. It's like everybody's just looking at you. And that was the moment where I was like, okay, this is scary. But at the end, I feel like there was so much information. Everybody was so excited to hear about it. And it was kind of my journey of building power apps and what consultants needed to know. And I shared a lot of these things along the way that I learned. And yeah, after that point, I think I was just hooked. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to do this.
What's the difference between how you feel now on a stage and how you felt that very first time?
Better. I think after you do it, you realize why you're doing it. And you're sharing information, even though it's still, I still like pre-record, all my demos. I'm too scared to try some of these ones like on the fly. And like I pray to the demo gods all the time. But then what I realize is like, okay, you make a mistake or you need to move over here or do something. It's not the end of the world. Not everything is perfect. And you go with it. So it does get easier and easier as you do it. But I think there's still an aspect of like, oh, I'm speaking today. There's just that nervous butterfly feeling that you get, or
Right.
I do anyway.
Man, the butterflies will carry me away. Last year or earlier this year, I introduced Molly and Liz at Vibe, and I was so nervous because those ladies are my heroes. I adore them, both of them. And I wanted to do a good job in communicating how effective they are and how special they are. And I was standing on the side of the stage and I was so nervous. And Robin Fennell was beside me and she said, "Do you want a margarita?" And I was like, "Actually, I do." And I was like, "I'm so nervous." And she was like, "You've got to be kidding me." She said, "I never in a million years would have thought that you of all people would be so nervous." And Shawn, I hear you. Every single time I take a stage, it doesn't matter how many people are there, I am just overcome with nerves. And the only thing I have to do is just make the first step and say the first word, and then I'm in it and I'm fine. And I can't say that it ever gets easier, but I love it. I just echoing what you've said, knowing that I'm making a difference, even if it's with one person, I'm teaching someone a new marketing principle or an idea that I've had. It makes it all just so worth it. It's just part of it, and I think it matters so much, and I'm nervous because it matters so much, right? I want to do a good job. I want to reach people. I want to help make a difference.
I think it's like the passion too. Like, you're so passionate about something that, you want to share it and get up and you start doing things that you thought, I would never do that ever in a million years, but you do it.
Has there been a moment in all that you've done and all that you've accomplished that changed how you see yourself?
I think it's the podcast and really seeing the Weekend Power platform just take off. And, we're such a community that we just come together and help each other. But I wanted to so I wrote the book and I was going to write another book and actually on Power Apps. But I decided, I'm like, you know what? I want to do something that's a little bit more real time. Everything is changing so fast that, you're trying to keep stuff updated and really writing a book. The screens will be different tomorrow. And so I just wanted to, do something a little bit different. But having the podcast, I think, has been really eye-opening for me that, I didn't give up after the first couple, which I thought I might. I can see why people do it. And they're like, oh my God.
It's a lot of work. Yeah.
You don't just record the thing and it's just this 30-minute thing. There's so much that goes into it. And I wanted to tell you, I'm really excited. I'm really appreciative that we got to talk, and even just learning some of the things that you're doing, I can take and share as well. But yeah, I think it's just the moment of doing the podcast. It's like, it just changed something for me.
What would you say to someone who maybe believes that they don't have anything that's worth sharing because they're quiet, because they don't have that rooted confidence yet? And I say yet.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to tell a little story.
Please.
So we're going to story time.
Yeah.
So I kind of told you about my 20s and what I did. So in my 30s, I was sitting here looking at, okay, I need to do something. Although I loved that business plan that I did. I loved working with people with disabilities, but you don't make a lot of money in it. And I just felt like I really need to do something. So I decided, like, hey, I'm going to go into computers. Everybody's doing it. It's the 90s, right? Let's do it. So I got into this 3-month networking class. And I know why I got in, because at first they declined me and I called and I said, no, I'll know how to do this. I'll research. My uncle works for IBM. He's a programmer. I know all these people. I'll figure it out. And they're like, Shawn, you just don't have the skills. You don't really know what you're doing. But I'm like, you have to let me in. Like, what am I going to do? I don't have a degree. I have these great skills, but I need this class. So fast forward, they let me in. I show up the first day on Monday and there's 8 of us. I'm the girl, 7 guys and me. So I get in there and I am not kidding you. I did not speak to anybody for almost a month. I did the class, didn't ask I wrote down all my questions. I was so scared that I was going to ask a question and they would know I didn't know what I was doing, but they already knew that. So you think that by not saying anything and being quiet, that, people are looking at you different. And it's like, they already know. Right. And so after the 3 months, we all became friends and, the class went well and they talked me into going. I'm real close to the Mexico border, but they talked me into going there. So I took my first Microsoft certification in Mexico. I was the only one that passed. Those guys all failed. And so they were so upset with me. But yeah, I guess for me, just looking back at that, it's like, just ask the questions and speak up and learn, because that's the only way you do. And the other way is so much harder, to just do it on your own. Right.
And sometimes, Shawn, I feel like, and I've said this, I think I've said this on Coffee Talk, I have to get out of my own way. I'm scared, I'm nervous, but I have to do it anyway. So I just act and I speak even though I'm nervous, I'm scared. And I feel like you're the same. You're showing up anyway. What keeps pulling you back to do more, to build more, to create more?
I think it's learning. I always have had that passion for learning. So I love that. But I feel like if I help one person in the next 10 years, if I help 1 or 2 people, I'm successful. That's all, And so I hear people say, oh, I didn't know that. And I'm looking forward to your class. And I picked this up on your podcast. And it's like just 1 person, 2 people, it doesn't have to be a big group. And so I keep doing that because I believe in this community. I'm invested in this community and I want to share, and be part of it. I really just want to be part of the community. So
yeah,
let me end. No.
You're in it.
Yeah, let's do it together.
So tell me more about your book. You've written a book. Where did the idea for that come from? And I'll hold off on the second part of my question.
Yeah.
I'll stop there.
Yeah. So Kim Cogiton is everybody probably knows. So she came to me one day and she has talked to me into crazy things. I'm sure I've talked her into crazy things too. I realize that we're really good partners just because we push each other to do things we probably wouldn't. But anyway, she sent me a message one day and she's like, "Hey, I think I got contacted. I think we should write this book." And I'm thinking, a book? I can't even write very well. Like, what are you talking about writing a book? And so it was on extending Business Central with Power Platform. And what got me was I was on this path of, I've been doing NAV and Business Central for 20 some years, and I love Power Platform. And how can I take that Business Central NAV stuff that we're doing and start extending it with all of these other, applications in the ecosystem? So I was like, let's do it. And little did I know it worked out really well, but it's a lot of work. We both worked a full-time job. And so on Saturday mornings, I'd come in here literally at 4 a.m. and I'd take a break at night, eat dinner, sleep, and I was back at it again. And so, yeah, it really was the best feeling. People will say that at the end, the best feeling is just holding the book. And it's true. It was great. We were able to share a lot of things that we were doing. We didn't have Weekend Power Platform yet, but we were already building stuff and extending and trying all this stuff on our own that we were able to take stuff we either did with customers or we were just learning and doing together and give people ideas of, hey, think about the possibilities are endless. So that was the book.
Yeah. I love Kim. She and I have been friends, I want to say, like from the first time we made eye contact. And, we speak every other week or so. And if I go longer than like 2 or 3 weeks, I'm like, okay, where's Kim? I have to send her a text message. I have to talk to her. She's such a dear person. And she introduced you to me and said, you've got to talk to Shawn and you've got to get her on your podcast. And yes, I'm so glad she did. And I'm so glad you're here and we're chatting. What is next? Are you going to publish another book? You said things are changing so quickly. What's next for you?
And I almost went off into the Power Apps book, but we always talked about doing a podcast and doing something like that. And timing wasn't right last year. We just couldn't get it together. And I think the one thing that stands out to me is that I think I was meant to do the podcast by myself, if you know what I mean, where we do so much together, we encourage each other, but then sometimes I think you just have to take that leap and just do it. And so finally I was like, Kim, it's not the right time for both of us. So I'm going to go ahead, do the podcast, start it, get moving on it. And I think that's just what I was meant to do.
Yeah. And you're rounding the corner to season 2 of the podcast?
Yes.
Yeah. So tell us about the podcast. What are you covering? What are you doing? I know you're building an agent, real live time and in front of everybody, figuring it all out together. Tell us more about the podcast.
Okay, so the podcast, what I wanted to do is take it and think about some of the things that we've been doing on the Weekend Power platform. That's why I connected it and just share ideas of what other people are doing. So some of the MVPs, like technically, what are we building? I had one episode about vibe coding, which I'm like, what is vibe coding? It sounded so cool, but I'm bringing people on that are actually doing these things. And so I want, as we're reading things on LinkedIn and all this stuff that, people are like, I'm doing all these things, but are we really doing them? Those lessons learned, some of that real technical aspects of it. I want to bring people together from the community that are actually building it and talk through lessons learned. What did they learn? What are some of the things that they're working on? And just have that stage for people to talk about it.
Yeah. I'm in marketing, obviously, and a lot of times, there's submissions open right now for a marketing conference in November. It's called Voices. And I'm really excited about this time for marketers to come together, learn. It's really difficult to submit a session for a marketing conference in November with the rapid change right now. I almost want to just submit with a very broad outline and say details to be determined because everything is changing. What we're doing in marketing, which it correlates to to technology and all the advances in technology, we have to be creative. We have to be creative in the way that we're thinking, with the way that we're producing, because things that worked 10 years ago don't work now. Same thing in technology and with all of the advancements. And it's a little scary, right? I mean, we're all like, you mentioned a lot of people are scared about AI. Is it coming for our jobs? I'm not scared. I want the playbook. I want to know what's next, right? I mean, we all want the playbook. But it's also exciting, and just to lean into it and see the opportunity that's there for us for it to be a tool and to help us. Before we close out, I want to make sure we land on what matters the most to you right now. What do you want people to take away from your story?
Yeah, I think what I want people to take away is that you don't have to be loud to build something that matters. You just start. And, if you're willing to learn, and then we have to be willing to embrace the messy middle, because there is a lot of messiness going on, and just lean on the community that wants to see you win and create amazing things. We're all figuring it out together. And I think that's kind of the big thing is, let's just share, what we're learning. And, if this journey or the things that I'm working on kind of resonate with you, come along with me, join the podcast, reach out to me, and we can get on and do what we did today and just, learn from each other and figure it out along the way, because it's changing. Whatever we talk about today is going to be different tomorrow. And I think that's the challenging part is how do we keep up with all of this? Because you only have so much time in the day, and you're trying to learn and implement all this stuff really super fast. But going fast isn't always great, and slowing down and, working through it together.
If someone wants to tune into Weekend Power Platform, where can they find you?
So YouTube, I have Weekend Power Platform YouTube, and I'm also on Apple Podcast, Bean Podcast. A lot of times I will post on LinkedIn. So that's another great place to hear what's coming out. But I'm trying to hit all of the platforms. So whether you like to visually see stuff and want to walk along, or you want to just listen, you have both those options.
You are exactly why I love doing the show. It gives me an opportunity to sit down with people like you, hear a real story behind the work. You are such an inspiration. You are so brave. I say that to you because I understand what it's like to be terrified and step out of your own way and do it anyway. So thank you for sharing your story and for reminding me specifically, just like you said, you don't have to be the loudest person in the room to change things. Is there anything else you want to leave the listener with before we sign off?
I think, one thing is don't be scared about it. If there's something that you want to learn, there's so many opportunity. There's so many people doing kind of what we do. Just find somebody, follow them. I mean, I followed April Dunham for a long time, just learning how she was doing things. So just follow along and jump in and try it, because you never know whether you like it or not, or, where you're at and if you need help. And then reach out to the community, because I've never had somebody say no. You think, oh, I don't know if this person's going to be able to help. I just reach out on LinkedIn and be like, hey, I'm doing this. Do you have any advice for me? So do it. Reach out to people, because everybody wants to help each other.
Well, again, Shawn, thank you for joining me today. This has been the fastest 30 minutes of my life. It's just we've just back and forth. The conversation has been so good. So thank you for spending your time with me. Until next time, keep building. Keep learning out loud. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today on Coffee Talk. A special thanks to my guests for sharing their story, and to you, the listener, for being a part of this conversation. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a Monday morning chat. Until next time, I'm Kate Coffee Bacon, and this has been Coffee Talk.